Hey folks, I've been playing a ton of For Honor and I want to start putting out some hero guides. So I figured why not start with my main, the Berserker. I'm going to split this video into a couple of sections that you can skip to right from here if you want to use it as a reference. First I'll be going through the Berserker's basic moveset and passives, and briefly comment on how some of these moves can be useful. Then I'll get into actual strategies and tactics that will hopefully push you towards some higher level play. I'd like to get into gear, but I'll probably save that for another video. So without any further delay, let's get this axe swinging. From the top of the list, Dance of the Paired Blades is your infinite combo that can begin with either a light attack or a heavy attack. And you can keep it going until you run out of stamina by alternating between the two. You definitely want to be switching up the direction of your attacks if you're trying to pull this off. I like to have most of my light attacks coming from above, as they're fast and slightly less predictable, but generally speaking, this combo isn't really a safe thing to do in higher tiers of play. It does lay the groundwork to give you tons of options to keep the pressure on your opponent, but we'll get to that later. This is a simple 3-hit heavy attack combo. Don't expect to be throwing these out all the time and winning fights. What's nice is you can chain into it from your other combo, hopefully throwing your opponent off in lower tier fights. It's also nice that the last attack is slightly slower than the previous ones. Sometimes your opponent will think your combo is done after the second heavy, only to catch an axe to the face. But don't rely on that. This is the most important move you have as a Berserker. Seeing as you're an assassin and your block stances are temporary, this almost replaces blocking for you unless you're sure you can get a parry. You can also chain into either of the combos I mentioned before from this. Spin Chop is going to be the strongest tool in your moveset, and I'll be talking more about it later in the tactics section. Bull Rush is your staple charge attack while not in guard mode. Personally, I only use it if someone is running away from me in 4v4, because it does an awesome job of tracking and catching up to the enemy if they're gaining from distance from you. Definitely don't start fights with this unless you know you're going to land it. This attack is a dodge forward combined with a light attack from above. It can be unexpected and extremely helpful if you're trying to close some distance between you and your opponent, but don't be careless with it. I'll talk more about this later. This is the same thing as before, but with a heavy attack. It's slower and more predictable, and should definitely only be used if you're certain it'll hit. If you've knocked an enemy down with no stamina, if you see them starting an attack that's gonna whiff, those are pretty much the only safe options, but again, more on that soon. This is one of the most underrated moves in your moveset. It took me a while to start implementing it into my own playstyle, but it's incredibly effective when you're being rushed, zone attacked, or teamed up on, and it costs hardly any stamina. Just make sure you hold back before hitting light and heavy, or you'll end up doing your zone attack and depleting half your stamina. I'm going to start with the Berserker's most important passive, Deflect. You can deflect an enemy attack by dodging in the direction of the attack just before it hits. This nets you a free guard break that opens many doors of opportunity for you and closes them in your opponent's face. I cannot stress to you how important it is that you go into custom matches with level 3 bots or against friends and practice deflecting as many attacks from different heroes as you have the patience for. I start every one of my play sessions doing this. Another passive allows you to cancel any attack with a dodge. This is another tool that can keep your opponent on their toes and too pressured to react effectively, but I'll get more into that in the next section. Lastly, if you're lucky enough to perform at least 4 attacks in your infinite chain, the rest of your attacks are uninterruptible until you stop. This doesn't mean that they can't be blocked, parried, or even deflected though, so it's only really helpful if you read your opponent well enough to know that they're going to have a hard time reading you. Alright, there's a lot to cover here, so bear with me. The Berserker is probably the most aggressive hero in the game. But don't make the mistake of thinking that means spinning to win with your infinite chain. What it actually means is using both your unique and basic toolset to stay unpredictable and keep your opponent guessing. This is a pretty basic fighting game concept, but it's especially true with the Berserker due to her limited moveset. Your strength lies in your agility and prowess. Because of this, feinting and dodge canceling is going to be more valuable to mastering the Berserker than anything else in your moveset. Feinting your heavy attacks into guard breaks, light attacks, and dodge cancels into Spin Chop are going to contribute to getting close up to your opponent and keeping the pressure on so they have no idea what you're going to do next. You can cancel your light attacks too, though dodge canceling into a spin chop or guard break works best since the window to feint is a lot tighter. If you're feeling extra lucky, you can also cancel any attack into head slicer or head crusher. Now wake the fuck up, because the Berserker guard break is awesome. You're guaranteed a side heavy that can chain into bear mauler, or a heavy feint into another guard break, etc. Additionally, after guard break, throwing your enemy into a wall guarantees you an upper heavy, netting you more damage. This is why learning to deflect is so important. You get a free guard break if you land one, and the rhythm of combat is immediately turned to your favor. I already mentioned earlier that you want to be careful about when you decide to use head slicer or head crusher. In addition to these moves being safe when you knock an enemy down, keep an eye on your opponent's movements when they're a bit further away. If you can read when they're going to try and dodge in for a guard break or swing a heavy, go for it. Definitely keep an eye on health as well. If you can survive a heavy attack but your opponent can't, look out for an opening and use head crusher to end them. One important aspect of keeping pressure on your opponent is to stay close to them. One of the best options for this is to spin chop when your enemy is executing an attack from further away. You might be surprised how much this closes the gap. If your opponent is doing a good job of keeping distance, this is a great way to surprise them. Typically, you want to start your matches off seeing what you can get away with. Test to see if your opponent will be tricked by a heavy feint into guard break. If they fall for it, try it again. If they catch on, feint your heavy attack into light attack, or a dodge light attack, or even just let the heavy attack go through. Practice these techniques against bots or friends until they become muscle memory, because faking out your opponent isn't the only thing you're going to need to manage. When playing such an aggressive hero, it's easy to feel like you constantly have the upper hand. Don't be fooled. At the same time that you need to concentrate on keeping the pressure on your opponent, you need to concentrate on defense as well. When your opponent sees they're going up against a Berserker, they're going to hope that they just hit the parry jackpot. They're just waiting for you to try to spin to win, or let one of your many attacks go through so they can take advantage and punish you for it. Don't forget to read your opponent and play reactively at the same time that you're trying to keep the pressure on. It's easier said than done. To summarize, be the right kind of aggressive. Threaten your opponent's space and comfort zone, wait for them to make a mistake and counter, fake your enemy out with feints and dodge cancels. Guard break is bae. This hero is more complex than the size of her moveset lets on, so I want to hear from you. What do you think I missed? Sound off in the comments. It would be great for other people watching this who want a perspective other than my own. If this video helped you, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, and if it didn't, well, I'm not sure there are any options for you. You're probably better off writing a letter to your state representative about me, or drying your socks to save money, or kissing a lobster, you drooling, repugnant, cringe-inducing, perverted, jealous